But for me, Usyk's the man.
I just think Benavidez, just the way he fights, I just love it. I just think he's a destruction machine.
They will want to deliver one of the best spectacles that the Japanese fans have ever seen.
And Usyk doesn't get any pound-for-pound points for beating a kickboxer.
No, he goes down if he doesn't perform well. That's the thing. He's pressure and he's powerful and he is a monster.
This is Final Round from William Hill with me, Lee Phelps, and the one and only Gareth A. Davis. Gareth, please tell them what happens in the final round.
Lee, you know by now, in the final round, those last 3 minutes, we leave it all in the ring.
We've got a fantastic weekend of boxing coming up with two of the generational pound-for-pound greats in the ring, maybe three of the pound-for-pound top 10 at the moment in the ring. We're going to talk about Inoue and Benavidez very soon, Gareth. But before we get into the previews of the fights, I wanted to talk to you about that pound-for-pound list as it stands. Obviously, you work for Ring Magazine. You have a lot of influence, and your opinion is counted for some of these lists that get put together. Can we go with maybe a top 5 pound-for-pound in the world right now?
Yeah, 5 for me is Dimitri Bivol. 4 is Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez. 3 is Shakur Stevenson. 2 is Naoya Inoue. And 1 is Alexander Usyk. Just outside that, as you just mentioned, I've got Junto Nakatani at 6, David Benavidez at 7, and Devin Haney at 8. Now, I'm picking Alexander Usyk at 1 because he's an undefeated champion in both cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions. Apart from, well, I think he has beaten the best. I don't know whether he'll ever fight Moses Itauma, the next generation of heavyweights coming through. But from what's being indicated at the moment, he may well end up fighting Moses Itauma if he stays around another year and a half, because it may be forced on him in the end. But for me, Usyk's the man. But we'll also find out this weekend in this all-Japanese clash how things go. What's your top 5, by the way?
Yeah, I think at the moment, I mean, obviously we've got this fight to come with Inoue, but I think Naoya Inoue is top for me. And that, there's no way I'm denigrating Alexander Usyk, by the way. But he's fighting. He's got a kind of, a freak show fight next. Inoue doesn't do that, does he? Inoue, I'm not saying he fights the best of the best every single time, but he's fighting legitimate boxers time in, time out. 32-0, Usyk's 24-0. I think I'd probably just edge Inoue. I think more people would if he was more kind of visible to us here. Obviously, boxing fans know Naoya Inoue, the monster, really well, but probably not, as widespread. People don't see his fights unless you watch them on YouTube, particularly, I guess. Do you go? So I'd go 1 Inoue, 2 Usyk. Did you go Shakur Stevenson 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that one. 4 Bam Bam Rodriguez, and I think Benavidez at 5. I think Benavidez is just sensational.
Not Bivol.
No, but just because I think Benavidez is. Maybe it's my preference that, I just think Benavidez, just the way he fights, I just love it. I just think he's a destruction machine. And, just the way he goes about it, I can't wait for the fight this weekend. So, yeah, I'd probably just put him in at 5, Benavidez. So we've got 2 of the top 5 pound for pounds in our list, at least, in action this weekend. Is there anyone... I guess if you widen it out to the top 10, I saw a few articles saying, when does Tyson Fury start to get talked about? Now he's back in, he was in that list. And then when he retired, obviously he was taken out. So when does he come back into that list? Beating Arslanbek Makhmudov isn't enough, I guess. But one more win, would he start to creep back into the pound for pound?
Listen, I think unless you do the extraordinary things that Usyk has done, stepping up from cruiserweight and being a 200-pound fighter and then going up against the big men, I think it's very hard for heavyweights to be in the top pound-for-pound list at times. That's why Usyk is so exceptional and has to be considered a generational great. Usyk, for me, is rightly number 1, and I disagree with you on your estimation, even though I do believe there's a slight controversy around him defending the WBC title to Rico Verhoeven, who's been the champion of kickboxing and heavyweight kickboxing for the last decade and has beaten who's who and everyone, if you like, who he could have beaten. Fury was round about my top 10 at one point. The 2 defeats to Usyk dropped him out of that. And I think I don't have him in the pound for pound list at the moment. Where I agree or disagree with you is on the Benavidez Bivol question. I think what we need to ask ourselves in our discussion is, does Bivol beat Benavidez or does Benavidez beat Bivol? In your eyes, he beats Bivol. In my eyes, he doesn't beat Bivol.
Fair. When do we see that fight?
I think if Benavidez defeats, we're going to come on to this, but if Benavidez wins the Cinco de Mayo, he might well stay at cruiserweight. Because there's a Jaya Pataya fight, there's maybe a Chris Billam-Smith fight, maybe there's a crossover to Zuffa Boxing, who knows?
Should we get into that fight? As soon as you mentioned him, let's get into that David Benavidez fight against Zurdo Ramirez. I mean, this is WBO a cruiserweight title. This one, you look at Benavidez' record, 31-0, sensational fighter, 25 KOs. The similarity of him being in the pound for pound list with Naoya Inoue, they're also called the Monster, aren't they? They both got same nicknames, and he lines up against arguably one of his hardest fights against Zurdo Ramirez, whose record. I mean, the amount of fights this guy's had: 48 wins, 1 loss. I mean, incredible. 30 knockouts himself as well. As you said, it's a fantastic weekend of boxing, of course. The betting, probably not surprisingly, has David Benavidez as a fairly short price favourite, 2-7, Ramirez 5-2, the draw 16-1. Will we see fireworks here, Gareth?
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, I remember I've covered Zurdo Ramirez, the golden southpaw, as he is. Obviously, he's a southpaw, very tall, lean, strong fighter. These are both very proud warriors when they go in the ring, of Hispanic descent, of course. So I remember him when he was a super middleweight champion. He's come up through the weight divisions. He's a big guy now. He fights in the right way. I mean, he had a very, very big battle, didn't he, in Riyadh with Chris Billam-Smith, in which he came out on top in a very, very tough fight for Chris Billam-Smith. I think I agree with you on David Benavidez. He's pressure and he's powerful and he is a monster. You can understand why, with Saul Canelo Alvarez controlling the kind of narrative, if you like, why he has been accused of ducking Benavidez, a naturally much bigger man. And obviously he's capable of stepping up to cruiserweight. I understand stylistically why he's with William Hill as a marginal favourite. I get that. But he's going to have to be on his game against Ramirez, who's obviously strong at the weight and has fought at cruiserweight for a while now. So I think in summation, I think Benavidez gets the job done, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him win in a close points decision. But these guys might go to the wire and one of them gets stopped. And if one of them's going to get stopped, it's probably Ramirez.
Yeah, interesting. Would you say that Ramirez's record is better than, in terms of the fighters that he's fought and the experience that he's gained, is better than Benavidez's? I mean, obviously, like you were mentioning there, obviously, Chris Billam-Smith fight was fantastic, but he's been in the ring with Dimitri Bivol, lost a unanimous decision and was pretty much a shutout, wasn't it? But he still had that experience. Joe Smith Jr., that was a 10-rounder, wasn't it? I mean, who's got the better record, would you say?
I think Benavidez, because of the way he's put his opponents away. Ramirez has more vulnerabilities about him, and it's there to see in the record. He can be outboxed as well, and I think Bivol showed that. So for me, Benavidez holds the aces in this fight. What Ramirez has, he's called the golden southpaw for a reason. That lefty stance, that ability to find different angles. But Benavidez doesn't seem to have a chink in his armor. He's still very powerful, great self-belief. The more I think about it, the more I see him as a convincing winner.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, the 2-7 price. Check out all the odds and the offers and the price boosts on the fight. Just to reiterate, your pick will be Benavidez on points, you think?
Yeah, Benavidez points over Zurdo Ramirez. Yeah.
Let's have a look at the other fight, the Tokyo Dome. Oh, to be there for this one. Two fantastic Japanese fighters here as well. Naoya Inoue, this is for the IBF, WBC, WBO World Super Bantamweight titles. Obviously, Inoue is, as we were talking about at the top, whatever you think, he's either first or second in the pound-for-pound list. 32 wins. No defeats, 27 by stoppage, the monster. Interestingly, last couple of fights have gone the full distance against David Picasso and Akhmadiev. His opponent, if people over this side of the world don't know too much about Naoya Inoue, if they're not avid boxing fans, then Junto Nakatani won't be that familiar to them either. But again, 32 wins, 24 by stoppage. Again, similar kind of results recently. He went the distance against Sebastian Hernandez-Reyes, but again, is a stopping machine. The betting on this one, again, not surprisingly, Naoya Inoue is a 1-4 favourite. The draw 14-1. Nakatani's 3-1. Gareth, have we seen a slight decrease in the power and the finishing ability of Inoue recently, or was that just because he wasn't challenged enough and wasn't quite on it?
You got to look at physically. You got to look, Lee, physically at how he's come up the weight divisions, and he's become undisputed in several weight divisions. And I think we've also seen Nakatani. I thought last time out, I think you mentioned the fight. I thought last time out he looked like he had vulnerabilities. His opponent was very dogged. He came back in the fight, and I thought, after seeing it, I thought Inoue, to me, is a big favourite in this fight. He carries the weight better at Super Bantam. I think he carries the power better at Super Bantam. Yes, okay, like you say, he's gone the distance in recent times. I just want to say as well, Inoue versus Nakatani is our equivalent of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury getting a ring for the Japanese. There will be, the tickets are like gold dust. It's a big national event. These two men this is a dream matchup for the Japanese fight fan public. It's an extraordinary bout. I think both men will absolutely give their all, and I'm going for Naoya Inoue to get a stoppage late in the fight.
Interesting. Second half of the fight, would you go for?
Yeah, definitely second half of the fight. I think it'll be a pitched war. They both come forward. I think Naoya Inoue will find it easier to hit Nakatani than Nakatani to hit Naoya Inoue, and I think slowly he'll chop him down like a tree, and I think Naoya Inoue wins between rounds 8 and 12, or maybe 9 and 12. In this fight, because they will want to deliver one of the best spectacles that the Japanese fans have ever seen. And then you're going to ask me, if Naoya Inoue stops Nakatani, does he creep above Alexander Usyk in the pound-for-pound list? Maybe you've got your argument then, because then the next thing up, we're going to be seeing Rico Verhoeven taking on Alexander Usyk in the beside the pyramids in Egypt. So
that doesn't move him up. And Usyk doesn't get any pound for pound points for beating a kickboxer.
No, he goes down if he doesn't perform well. That's the thing.
Yeah, interesting. One last question on this one. You can only go to one, Gareth, but I'm going to give you the travel permission to go to one of these fights this weekend. Which one do you go to?
Well, I've been to Vegas over 110 times, I counted last year. I'll have told you either on or off the record. Much as I'd love to be there for an all kind of Spanish-speaking battle of the bulge, if you like, two great fighters. I think to be in Tokyo for Naoya Inoue and Nakatani's walkout and just experience the vibrancy. I've worked a couple of TV shows in the UFC, in the Tokyo Dome, the extraordinary Saitama Super Arena, rather. And it is an extraordinary place to go for fights because the Japanese are quiet people, but they are now very, very passionate about their fight sports. And obviously, back in the days of Pride, when all the big names fought out there and there were crowds of 60-odd thousand, it all generated there. It's one of the great kind of spiritual homes of martial arts. You know where I'm heading with this. I'd be in Tokyo.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too, I think. But I take either, to be perfectly honest. Gareth, it's been fascinating to talk about that. Really looking forward to the fights. You can get all the price boosts and all the odds and offers right here at William Hill as well. Please like, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend, comment. We'd love to hear what you think of that pound for pound debate. Inoue or Usyk, who's one, who's two. But for now, we've left it all in the ring. The final bell is tolled. We'll see you next time.